Hello and welcome to my series review of Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, part of the Caraval world. This series follows straight on from the events of Caraval, but don't worry, if you have not read the Caraval series, you don't need to have read this one. It kind of helps a little bit because you get more context about Jax and how he came to be again, but it is not essential, and vice versa. You don't need to have read this series to have read Caraval. They link tiny, I'd say 2%, but that's it. This series ultimately starts off with the main character, Evangeline, wishing to stop her love from marrying somebody else because she thinks he's under a spell. She's like, well, if I make this wish, he won't marry her and everything will be fine. And to do that, she makes a deal with Jax, the Prince of Hearts. Now, if you've read Caraval, you would know that when it comes to the fates, there is always something that isn't quite right. So there's always a catch. So, onto the review. As always, with Garber's stuff, the world building, on point. I absolutely love the world of Caraval. It's one of those fantasies that's set in a medieval-esque world where everybody's wearing nice fancy corset dresses and there's knights and kings and queens and palaces and castles. And then there's magic. But it's the same with Caraval. The actual writing, the plot, and the world building are just 5 out of 5. It's really good. I really enjoyed how book 1 has its own core plot. And then there are a few threads of a subplot mentioned within it that then ultimately become the core plot of the whole trilogy. So I really enjoy that transition from just being introduced to Evangeline and the world and the Jax and the fates and Jax, and then you have that story, gets done and dusted, but wait, there is more because you've been fed these nuggets of information. We're ready for books 2 and 3. Each book was quite good, I have to say, and does carry the story along. Book 2 is definitely the better one, I want to say. I know you're thinking, what? Seriously? But it is. There's interesting characters in it. The plot gets a little bit more interesting because there's a prophecy and you already are invested in Jax and Evangeline. So you don't want things to happen, you know? You want things to happen. That being said, book 3 was just all over the place. New villains were introduced. There was a lot going on. And just trying to figure out the significance of certain things was a lot. And then ultimately didn't know if it was important or not. And it was just giving more book 2 energy. Normally book 2 is just a bit of a mess, up and down, just laying down all the threads ready to be tidied up in book 3. But book 3 was laying down all these threads to then tidy up within the last few chapters, so it was just a bit weird. Book 2 was definitely the best one. That being said, the writing, the character dynamics, the flirtations, they only get better as the books go on, which is great. I actually, contrary to some of the reviews on Goodreads, I love how the world expanded and we got vampires in this. I thought it was a brilliant addition to see more of the magical world of the Meridian Empire. I thought it was great. Right. So, let me be honest. If you don't like a naive, bumbling, wholesome, and too trusting main female character, you ain't gonna like this, okay? Evangeline, at her core, is a very naive, childlike female protagonist, okay? She trusts everybody too much, she lives in fairy tales, and that gets her ultimately into the trouble that she's in. She's just a bit of a delulu protagonist, to be fair. She trusts too easily, and she just does not think that people would think with malice and act with malice when they could just be kind. If you're not about that, then just skip, because you're just going to get annoyed with her. This does obviously change as the books progress, she does lose some of that naivety, but I guess that is the core of who she is, and that is why certain characters gravitate towards her. And otherwise, if she wasn't like that, then she wouldn't get into the messes and the story wouldn't exist. Okay, so Jax is everything. He is the ultimate morally grey character, the one that would kill, but would also kill for you, yeah? So he is the bad boy, but he is the good boy with you type. He is one of those that's egotistical and cocky on the outside, but really just too scared to show his emotions on the inside because everybody gets hurt. So if he shows his emotions, then they die. And do you know what? That makes him so much better. There isn't enemies to lovers between Evangeline and Jax, which I guess they're not so much enemies. I feel like she just gets annoyed by him and vice versa. It does have that sort of tone to it, and it is quite well done. But if you're after enemies to lovers where they fully hate each other, I don't think you're going to get that. This is just two people bickering a lot, but underneath all the sexual tension, and the sexually tensiony bits are written very well. Ultimately, this is a romantasy series, so if you are not a romantasy reader, then I would avoid. If you love romantasy, then you are going to absolutely love these. If you love a magical system, a magical world where you have all-powerful beings that can grant wishes, then you're going to love this. If you love an action-packed adventure quest book with two arguing characters that bicker only because they actually really love each other, then you're gonna love this. I think if I'd have read this when I was a lot younger, this would have been my absolutely favourite series. I think the ending of book 3 just ruined it a little. Well, I think just the way book 3 was written ruined it a little bit for me. I don't know if it's because it's so short that they tried to rush it, so all the threads had to be opened and then closed really quickly. Anyway, regardless, solid series. Yeah, that's my review. Thank you very much for watching.